Hey, welcome back. So, in the previous video, if you watched that, assuming you did, you'll have heard me say that you don't need to know every scale and all endless techniques and theory. In fact, there's just a few small things you can do in your playing which can actually transform the way you sound. And let's not forget, everything that we're doing here, you know, it's great to be able to play all this stuff, but it's at the end of the day about how you sound. And if you want to get up on stage and do a jam night like some of my clients and customers and students, I should call them, actually have done, customers, yeah. But if you want to get up and play on stage and, you know, feel intimidated because you don't know much stuff, then you don't need to be able to play like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Slash and all these other great guys to get the best out of a simple sound. Now, let me just quickly tell you a story. I used to teach a guy called Ian when I lived in Spain. He was about my age. And he had this nice little Ibanez guitar that he could play a few chords on, but he wanted to just kind of jam out to stuff and have a bit of fun. And after a couple of lessons of explaining, you know, some bits and pieces and showing him some songs and some ideas to get stuck into, because he already played a little bit, we looked at the pentatonic scale and I explained to him that once you know what key you're in, you can use simple ideas there to jam out over stuff. And I showed him something, I can't remember what key it was in, you know, I'm talking about 7 or 8 years ago now. But let's just say, for example, it's C minor. Okay, sounds a bit like All Along the Watchtower. Okay, so something like that. And I said to him, well, look, if you just play... then when you play like those notes... they're going to sound great because the background changes, the way the chords change how the notes sound over the top. But if you want to take that up a level, because you know a lot of people start there, they learn the position 1 pentatonic. Oh, that's the minor pentatonic, I should say. Then what happens is there you've got a framework to play around, but then you need to make it interesting to, like, for yourself and a listener. So what you can do is 3 simple techniques that you can put in there with a bend, some vibrato and a slide. You can take 3 or 4 notes and totally transform what you're playing and how it sounds. So let's just have a little look. If I look at a slide into, let's stick with the C minor. Okay. Then instead of just going, that makes that a bit more interesting. And then we're going to put some vibrato on it. Okay, now everybody's got a different technique for vibrato. You look at how they hold their hand and where they pull from and this kind of thing. So again, don't get hung up on stuff like that if you think, oh, I can't do that or don't know how to do it. Everything about playing is completely individual, and I'll explain about that in another video or when we have a chat together, hopefully, if you decide to join up. But let's carry on. So we're going to look at vibrato. Okay, now it's almost like a bend, but I'm not going to the next target note. We talk about those in a sec. Okay, so the bend, but the vibrato lets it come up a bit and then back. Okay, there's no way around it. You can't go down unless you use the tremolo one, which is a different kind of vibrato. You know, someone like Hank Marvin or even Dave Gilmour, actually, he plays a lot of that kind of... You know, if you play it, it sounds a bit... It was in there somewhere and played that for a while, but that vibrato obviously is easy to do because you just move the arm. But when you're doing it from your fingers, you can pull down on there like that. Obviously, you wouldn't let go of the fretboard like I'm doing there. It's just to exaggerate what I'm showing you, that it's coming from. It's actually coming from here. You know, from the whole of the arm movement, not just the finger, which is what a lot of people do. When I first started teaching the kids, they will go like that, and it sounds like a dying wasp or something. So let's get a nicer sound. So look, let's put some of these ideas together. We've got the vibrato, a bend, and the vibrato and a slide. So all of a sudden, those 3 things, I'm only playing 2 notes, okay? Bit of slide and vibrato. hitting another note there. Did you hear that? There it is again. A bit of a bend. Okay. So those three simple techniques, once you start just putting them into your playing as like a matter of course, as part of your style, they'll really change the way that you can sound. So if you are at that level where you're kind of learning your way around the fretboard a bit, learning a couple of shapes and patterns, but they sound a bit mechanical, a bit robotic, those three simple things there can totally transform how you sound. And obviously the more confident you get, you can apply them everywhere. So you hear a lot of the great players who use these, and it obviously depends on the genre of music, you know, but they've got a specific sort of rock, classic rock, blues feel to them. Okay, beautiful chord to end on there, wasn't it? I think we'll leave it there. Have a look at the next video.